Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Loaded Lounge at the earlier time of 7 o'clock. And tonight we are joined by Jack and Lee from the fantastic The Raz. So here we go. This is this week's episode of Loaded Lounge. So, good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Loaded Lounge. So, I'll just bring in Jack and Lee from The Raz. Good evening, boys. How are you?
Hello. All good.
How's things? Weather all right in Scotland, or is it a bit shitty today?
Always sunny here.
It's always, to be fair, that's exactly what the Dictator lad said when we had them on a few months ago. It's always sunny in Scotland.
This is a hot country now. It's been hot for a week.
So, lads, it's really good to have you on the show. I've been talking to your manager, Sam, for a few months now about getting you on the show. So it's really great that you would decide to join us on the show. So I wanted to basically start off, just give us a bit of background for the people who don't know who you are about The Raz.
So The Raz, a band from Preston Pans, East Lothian. Me and Jack are actually not original members of The Raz. So the three other lads met at school, started a band in high school, and me and Jack Miller are good friends, and we joined the band kind of later on. So, so we're just taking a turn at a podcast.
All right, okay. So you've got the short straw tonight, did you? So how long have you been members of the band then?
So I'll be coming up, I think it's maybe 3 years.
Right.
I must be 2 now. I
think so you pretty much literally were just joining that when you were getting to that point just before lockdown came along, where you've probably just got yourself your feet under the table a little bit regards to the rest of the lads.
Well, I think
getting in that comfort zone, everything's going the right direction, and then everything just like comes to a standstill.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So what I'll do is now, because obviously you said you've been together for a while, mainly from school. So how long have you known the rest of the lads then? If you've only been in the band for like 2 to 3 years?
So pretty much when the Raz started gigging, was probably when we were at high school. We actually played in another band, and we used to play gigs with the Raz. So we've known them pretty much from when they started.
I think that sort of circuit, and when we were playing when we were younger, because there was so few bands out there, everyone knew each other who was playing in them. So I think we kind of watched the boys come up as well as everyone else.
Yeah, totally. We had influence from the Raz. A lot of the stuff we done was quite similar to what they were doing. So, and now we're here in the Raz.
Yeah, and I take obviously the fact that you're still there, you must be both enjoying it then.
Yeah, definitely.
100%.
I suppose because the amount of feedback I've seen on Twitter regards your new album, which we'll get in a bit more depth later on in the interview, is you've had a fantastic year, and the response to that your album has been phenomenal. Really, you've been getting a lot of positivity about it. What's that felt like with you now coming out of lockdown and obviously restrictions starting to lift? That album's going to be right at the forefront of a lot of people's mind musically, and they're going to then be able to experience it pretty much straight away as well.
It's good. I think there was a few ways we could have played it. You've seen a lot of bands sort of holding out to put out new music, and it was something we sort of juggled with at the start of the first lockdown. But eventually, we just sort of decided if we put it back any longer, it was gonna get boring for us to start with, and people that had been waiting for it for a while, it wasn't fair on them either. So I think putting it out was a good time as well, because no one had anything to do apart from sitting and listening to music anyway. So it's worked out well for us.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think you've planned it pretty well, because the way that obviously the stuff's going now and what you've got coming up for the rest of the year, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you seem to have planned everything to perfection, the way that the restrictions have lifted, and possibilities of some festivals may still get the go ahead later in the summer and stuff like that. So you've done it pretty well to keep yourself at the forefront of people's minds, but also keep your music there on a month-to-month basis by having the odd release over the lockdown period as well. So what I want to do is I want to play the first track I've got in the system for you. And it is one of your older ones, but it is still part of the new album, which is great to see that you've got content going back 2 to 3 years, which is on the first album still. And I actually love this song. So what was the thinking behind the song Land of the Dreamers, which is what we're going to play first?
So I'd say it's just having a creative mind space and pretty much taking yourself out of your normal life and living in sort of dreamland.
Yeah. I think everyone can relate to that, can't they?
It really is what it says, pretty much. It's just everyone pretty much living a like your usual life. But I think watching the video on that as well, it also kind of takes you out of that mind space, which is quite effective.
Yeah, I was going to say the video goes really well with the song. It's whoever directed and had the creative idea for it linked it really well with the song. And I think people will see that when they actually... Was it you? Was it Lee?
Well, kind of. It was a not so much me, but we kind of came up with the idea. I'd done a bit of the filming. It was the first video we decided to do ourselves, actually. And I think at the time it was very creative, and we got all our ideas flowing in that. So, it worked out really good. So this the actual track is a different version from the album, but because when we went back in the studio, we actually ended up putting new bass parts and new parts into it. So if it's a video from online,
it is.
It's a different version, but it'll be good. It's good for people to compare the two versions.
It is. It shows the versatility, and that you're not afraid to go back on something that you think you might be able to improve. And to be fair, when you go to live gigs anyway, it's not often that you hear the exact studio version when you're on stage anyway, because you'd like to keep people on their toes and keep things fresh for them. So it's good that people can see this video, and then if they want to go on the Spotify playlist later on when we add the songs to it, they will hear the album version on there as well. So it's good that it keeps people on having different takes on it. As I said, keep it fresh for them, get different opinions out there, show your artistic creativity to have the variation there as well. So without further ado, this is The Raz with Land of the Dreamers. Great song, lads. Absolutely love that. So was it fun recording that then, was it? The video?
Yeah, it was good actually. Aye. It was that strange watching it because I've not watched it for ages, and it's not as good as I thought it was.
Well, you perhaps think they're doing another re-recording of it then, Lee?
I might actually do another version and put the new track on it. It's a good idea actually.
So, as I said, just we had a little bit brief introduction to start. So, just tell us more about how the Raws were going from your point of view before lockdown really kicked in. Because going back and obviously the following that you have, you seem to be going in the right direction, the way that all new bands really want to go. So, how was that at that stage?
I would say we would have been probably playing more gigs and building a following that way. But I think it's kind of worked in our favour in a certain way because we've actually been more active on social media, posting our tracks before they were released, like the acoustic versions, like the isolation versions. So it's getting the tracks out there and gaining a following from that.
I think the before the lockdown, there was two really good gigs just before it shut. One in December, one in January, I think it was, and I think from there we were more looking forward to just getting out, playing more gigs, and then who could have predicted what was to come? But like it has been. I think everyone's been forced to step back, sort of reevaluate how they're going to do things, and go for there.
So did it when obviously the lockdown kicked in and obviously you had to scrap everything that you had planned? How did you, as a band, how did you look at that? Did you become a bit like stuck with what you want to do, or did that really give you the kickstart to reevaluate how you wanted the band to go, and possibly change direction or fine tune what you had already in the system for like when stuff went back to normal?
I think it was a way for us to fine tune what we were planning. I think with being active with gigs, then you've got less time to plan when releases will be, and how you're going to go forward with things. So I think it was a good time to clear your head and get a plan written down to how we were going to do it. So it was a perfect
delay as well for that album coming out, because we were the plan was to have it out in 2020, and it was like being given so many months extra to properly see what we wanted, kind of push the boat a wee bit on certain ideas and get a wee bit more creative with it. And
like you've just talked about with like the Land of the Dreamers, where you've put different bass lines in it and stuff like that, so you were able to, as you said, fine tune it and have a bit more creative output rather than having rush deadlines to give you a bit more.
Not even just with the tracks themselves, but the artwork for the album and the videos that we went and done, and socials, can staying sort of active like that, and like with a vinyl press and coloured vinyl and everything. It was things that we wouldn't have thought about if we hadn't had that time, or which maybe wouldn't have come off the same or quite as effective if we hadn't had time to tune them in.
So as I've just put on the screen, that's obviously the album cover there. So obviously then you look at also the AA side cover as well. Is it all local locations to yourselves that you've focused on when you've been putting all the artwork out there?
Yeah.
So they're all landmarks in Preston
Pans.
Right. So you keep it local and representing, basically.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So
why not?
The album cover is where our practice room is. So it's
right.
The Royal Musselburgh Golf Club.
Right.
I remember the name of the building. It was actually Jack was in another podcast was saying the history of the building. I can't actually remember, so I would be telling lies. So that's where we practice. We've got a room there where our stuff's set up, so we can go up whenever we want. Really,
I think the idea it was always there to keep everything the same for the 3-4 singles, and then the album for it all to tie in with each other. And when you see them all in a row like that, the effect is pretty cool.
I think it's good to have that local recognition for you, especially for your debut album. Do you know what I mean? It's all these places we have had. Obviously, one's got your recording studio in the building, but the other places that are on the artwork are places that have like had effect on you growing up and stuff like that, and mean stuff to you as well. And you're obviously trying to bring that to your fans and stuff like that. That this is what's molded you as a band to create the music that you're putting out there. So I think it's always a good nod to have stuff like that in. Like one of the bands we had on a couple of weeks ago, Parades, they were from Coventry, and nobody knew until they actually told us when we played the video that a lot of the graphics and stuff in the video was Coventry landmarks, and nobody, because it's meaningful to them. And then obviously when you explain it and they say it, people were going, "Yeah, it is. I've just noticed after the first time." So it's nice that you can put a nod to your hometown, not necessarily being obvious, but it's nice to have that on that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the second song I've got on there, and I must admit, it is one of my favorite songs that you've done that's on the album, and I absolutely love it. It's Take It All In. So without further ado, this is Take It All In. Class, lads. You know what I love about it? It's such an upbeat song that you want to put on before you go out on the last with the lads. I think that's the sort of song that the way it sounds and everything. I don't know if that's what it was about or the idea behind the song or anything like that, but it's one of the things I love about it. So what was the thinking behind that?
I think most of the tracks can do that.
To be fair, they do like they do. So what we'll do now is we'll go into a bit more about how things are looking for you going forward now. Now you've just literally released the album in May, and then you've just released your double A side in June. So as I mentioned earlier, the albums had some really, really positive reviews for a debut album. How have you felt with the positivity that you've had back? How's it made you feel as artists? Has it, verified your belief in what you wanted the album to be? Has there anything that's been come back to yourselves that you thought, oh, perhaps someone said this, we could have done this better, or just giving you an idea going forward for your other EPs and albums down the line?
I think that it's kind of encouraging us just to keep going and get to actually go and tour the album pretty much, and get the feedback that we're getting on socials in person. It would be good for people to see it live, pretty much.
As much as the album is exactly how we wanted to put it out, these songs truly sort of had their weight when they're played live. That's when you get the most from them, and it's when we get the most from them now that we've listened to them a million times over the last year. So I think it's going to be a whole different feel when we're playing them live, no for us, but for the people that have only heard the album in the past year.
So it's obviously you've got a gig coming up. You've got a headline tour coming for Scotland and Newcastle include that, which I'm over the moon with. There's not often some of the bands that we get come this far north, but I have got details of the tour here in the system, and as we can see here, it's going out in October. You've got tickets still available for the gig in Aberdeen on the 23rd of October in Drummond's. 28th of October in Newcastle at Think Tank, which I will be at a few times between now and Christmas, because there's a few nice little bands turning up there, and I will be coming along to yours on that night as well. But one of the most promising things for you is that the fact that Sneaky Pete's in Edinburgh on the 30th and Broadcast on Glasgow 20th are both sold out gigs. So how does that feel that you've been able to sell out those two venues?
Buzzing.
Very good.
Actually, I think Glasgow. It's good selling out. Edinburgh's got to be all our close mates, family, new fans who have just probably heard the album and thought we'll go to the gig. So, and same with Glasgow, it's got to be good to get a lot of new fans and stuff.
We've been able to sort of interact with people a lot more over the past year that we normally wouldn't have met. But I think from speaking on socials and everything, and from launching the album, like a lot of the people in sort of our area, Edinburgh, and sort of local people that bought it, we were actually delivering them by hand, the album, when it first launched. I think it was the 2 or 3 nights running up to launch night, knocking on people's doors at 11 o'clock, waking their wife and bairns up. And a lot of the people were saying, can't I wait for the gigs? We've got tickets, and these tickets have rolled on for the last 3 reschedules that we should have had. Obviously, everyone's known when we would have got to play it, but I'm glad that people are finally going to be able to come and have a decent bit of crack with us.
I think the one good thing about the way social media is now, and I've had a discussion with numerous bands on over the weeks, that because the way social media is with all the platforms that you've got, and also the fact you've got streaming things like Spotify, you've been able to keep active and keep yourself relevant in people's minds. Because sometimes, obviously, I'm in my 40s now, and I'll go back to the days when I was growing up with like Blur and Oasis and the Manics and Ocean Colour Scene and all stuff like that, and you only actually ever heard about them once they became mainstream or they were a local band. Whereas now, social media is able to give bands such a way of getting out there that so people can hear how good that music is. And the amount of unsigned bands that we've had on the show so far this year, people are shocked when you tell them that they're unsigned because they sound so polished. So, you know, the production's good as well. It's not just someone who's practices in a village hall or something like that. You know, and I think that's one thing that's been really, really good, that bands haven't just hidden away when lockdown came about. They've kept themselves to the forefront of people's mind by using all these means to it. And I think it's allowed, obviously, yourselves to put the extra time at the album and make it exactly how you want it to be because you had that extra time. But you were also on the social media promoting them. You were releasing the songs gradually just to keep yourself out there. And then you can hit them now. Now the restrictions are lifted. You've hit them with the album. You're hitting them with the double A side. And now you've got so much coming up the second half of the year that's going to have a fantastic effect for the band once you get back into normality for a full year of normality, when festivals return next year and stuff like that as well. So hats off to you the way you've done it, because some people can go and hide in the shell or, you know, wallow in their own self-pity when things don't go to plan. But I think, like the majority of people like yourselves have done, you turned the negative and made it into a huge positive for yourself.
Definitely. I think it could have been as well, like, we could have released the album and went out, toured right away off the back of it, and it would have went well, I'm sure. But it's kind of like we've had, what, 7 months or so for people to sit on this album and for it to spread a bit. And I think that's why the gigs are selling out now, like they have been, is because people are just kind of been getting more people in that 7-month period than it would have went if we had just toured off the back of the album.
I think the good thing as well is so many, like, you know, internet radio stations as well, not like the mainstream ones. Like, we've got a partnership with the Way Day Radio. You've got so many other ones around the country as well that are putting out unsigned independent artists who are creating these brands, you know, and that's a fantastic way of getting the music out there for yourselves as well. So, you know, as I mentioned off screen for you, you know, we have our partnership with the Way Day Radio. This show will go out on the radio on Saturday as a rerun. So people who might not be able to watch the show tonight or watch back at another time, they'll hear it on the radio like they do as a routine every Saturday, where you might be in the garden having a beer with your mates, having a bit of a chill, and then they hear the interview, they hear the tunes, and they go, "That's class." You know, where can I look up these dates that they've been talking about? What was the album title again? And then check you out, and it increases more coverage for yourselves as well. So what I'm going to do now is, while we're on that, and we've been talking about how you did things in isolation, you did a few isolation tracks as well. What I would decide to do is, because you've got the double A side up and running at the moment, I want to play one part of the double A side now, which is Our Design. But what I want to do is, obviously this is the front cover for it. I'm actually going to play the isolation version for it. The reason why I want to do this is because obviously it's relevant now because it is your current track, but also it shows how good you were able to cope with the lockdown, how you were able to get rid of all this controversy. You didn't have to be in a studio and fine-tune your voice here and this. You know, you got all of it together on multiple screens and put it all together, and you sound fantastic still. So this is the isolation version of Our Design.
To kill ourselves, to become defiant, continuously break ourselves. We break ourselves to defeat our doubt. Organize the truth contained in a box. Never look back, shut it out. See what we've got, don't let it down. Let it deliver what we're all about. It's time to shine with our design. With our design. design. With our design. A path will be found, made to follow. Let it roll, see it out. Younger dreams fly, reality drags. All of the faith we have left out. It's time to shine with our design. With our design. With our design. With our design. It's our design. Thank you.
Class little ending there, isn't it?
I was laughing at least then in the shower doing the harmonies.
They must have had obviously the best acoustics in the show. That's probably what it was, wasn't it, Lee?
Definitely.
So did you get many other versions out there when you were doing the isolation tracks, or was it another? Like, there's another one I saw on the YouTube, but was there a few of the tracks that you did, or were these the two that you just felt hit home best?
Time is now first.
Yeah, done Time is Now first. I think we done it just after we released this single. The Time Is Now, I think.
It must have been.
Yeah.
So it's a really good version of the song, because obviously it highlights all the different aspects that go into the song, because you obviously had the individual screens that were there for it. Did you just have many takes? Am I allowed to ask that properly, really, or was it a first take wonder sort of thing, that the professionals that you are?
I think it was. I think we all probably had a couple of takes, but once we had the actual version, then we would just send it.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was getting put together, I only seen one take. So let's just say it was all one take.
Aye, one take. Mine was one take anyway.
Jack's the pro then. So that's obviously, I take you were happy with the outcome then, because obviously you've had to record every single part separately.
Yeah, we're pretty much making use of what equipment and stuff we had. It's like you could do it with good mics and you can do it with the best, like plugging in straight in, whatever. But I think we just
iPhone cameras.
We just winged it. iPhones. If Jack obviously done his vocals on mics, but it was pretty much put together and give it a wee mix and see what it sounds like.
Well, it turned out spot on, to be fair. Like, so, as I mentioned before, I played the song. It's part of a double A side. Why did you decide to do a double A side?
It was actually our PR that pushed it more than anything else. When we were talking about what was going to be the last one, and the way they sort of come back to us was half their team was stuck on one, half their team was stuck on the other, and they couldn't agree. So they came back and said put them both at double A side, which is a good position to be in.
Definitely, that's what I say. I can see why they had that decision of one and one, because they're both fantastic tracks. We'll hear the other side of the we're going to play out with it actually as the last song, obviously keep it relevant. It's your new single. So, and I think I actually prefer the other side of it. I actually absolutely love If You Never Try, You Never Know. It's one of those things where one of my sayings in life is Shy Ben's getting out. So it's sort of relevant to me on that front. And, if you don't ask the question, you don't get. So that's how it's. I think that's one of the reasons why it hit home for me on that one. So before I go on to play the next song on the album, I'm just going to go through all like our promos. And I've mentioned already, we've got a partnership with Away Day Radio, which the show will go out on a Saturday, usually between 1 and 2. And also we do a mutual partnership with Mind, Body and Soul. Now, Mind, Body and Soul are a mental health charity that's been set up this year, and it's been basically set about for ideally and mainly for men's mental health. For people who, as all us blokes know, sometimes we put on a brave face. We don't like to open up, but we all know it is good to talk. And once you all live by that saying, "A problem shared is a problem halved," and that isn't, it couldn't be more true. And what Mind, Body and Soul do is, the charity, is they always say, "Remember that you're never alone," and that help is always there. You can hashtag them Mind, Body and Soul. Help at mindbodyandsoul.uk, and obviously the website is www.mindbodyandsoul.uk. Now, what Mind, Body and Soul do is they actually help out people which may seem like it's a minor issue. Like, you might be thinking, how are you going to put food on the table this month because something's happened? It could be, like one case was, there was a little girl who had to go into hospital, and it was away from home, it was at the other end of the country, and the charity actually paid for the accommodation so the dad could stay with the daughter. Little things that may cause a big stress from something that shouldn't be. And that's one of the reasons why we're proud to be associated with Mind, Body and Soul. Now, one of the things that Mind, Body and Soul are also like on the band scene and the indie scene and stuff like that is they like the association with the Three Stripes. So they've came up with their own merchandise line. Now, you might see them, you'll probably start seeing some of these kicking out in gigs. This is like the Sky Blue Man City version. Obviously, a lot of the indie scene have. But there's loads of different colorways, which you can go with all your different types of Adidas specials, gazelles, and stuff like that. They've got range of hoodies as well. Also, your bucket hats. There you go, Lee. Bucket hat for you, mate. But the good thing about all the ranges, they've got a fantastic color range on there. And if you've got a color range that you want to cover, email them, they'll get you out. But the fantastic thing is every single bit of profit from any of the merchandise goes straight to the charity and help people that need it most. And that's one of the most relevant things about it. They're a non-profit charity. It all goes to people who need it most. And also going back to Radio, our partners, they've got a gig coming up at the end of August, at the bank holiday weekend, at the HMV Empire in Coventry. Headlining the gig will be the Institute, and they will be supported by The Drift, Athens, The Astrid, Jay Tennant and Miles Chester. As I said, that is on Sunday the 29th of August, which is the bank holiday weekend, 5 to 11 p.m, and it will be finished off with an indie disco as well. I also mentioned during the show that all the songs that I played on the show tonight go on to the Loaded HQ LFW Lounge playlist. So every single song that we've ever covered will be in this playlist, so you don't need to go anywhere else to hear fantastic brand new music. So it helps every single time you listen to a song. That helps the artist out. I know it might only be a penny here and there, and unfortunately that's how Spotify does that appear, but it's pennies in their pockets and not Spotify's at the end of the day, and it helps get their new music out there. And I know the lads will appreciate it. Go out and find the new album on there. When it does it become real, it's a fantastic album. Some fantastic tracks. I said every single track that's on the Being Short Night is actually on the album, whether it's like the original or whether they've re-recorded it because the situations allowed them to. It's a fantastic album, to check them out on Spotify. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on to the next thing I've got in the system for you, which is The Time Is Now, which is another one I absolutely love. Another the video just it's classically, you just seem like it's one of those ones where it's like you're away on tour, have a bit crack, recording in the background, and just having a general good laugh. And I think that's what the song is for. So, and as I mentioned before, it's like one of those ones where you can probably go out, have it on before you go out with the lads, have a bit of laugh, get you in the mood, and that's exactly what this song does. So this is The Time Is Now by The Raz.
Now is the time, a time you'll look back on, a time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time, this moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome, take over. The time is now.
Here comes the time when you have to
I'm Stevie and I'm wondering what the fuck that was, man.
Here, Stevie don't wonder, Neely knows.
You fucking trumpet.
I've got to say, for all the apologies to the Away Day radio listeners on Saturday, because what you're actually gonna you actually missed something by not seeing the video on there, and I think the title for the song is perfect for that video. Live in the moment, but I take it was done like in between gigs and recording studios and stuff like that by the obviously what looks going on. But it looks like you had an absolutely fantastic crack while doing it. Was it actually like that, or was it just for the video?
Oh, it was 10 times madder than that. That's only a few snippets of how mad it is. But,
yeah, I've had a few nights up in Scotland, so I can imagine what those sort of parties were going to be like. So I can imagine it was a really, really good laugh. So as I said, I love that song, and it's you can see why just by looking at the video and listening to it as well. Really, really relevant. What I want to touch on before we go into a little bit of football before we finish up is how do you feel about Tim Burgess wanting to obviously for people who don't know who he is, legendary The Charlatans lead singer, going to do a live listening party with yourselves and go through your album. It must make you feel fantastic that someone of his stature wants to play, and discuss with you the Raz album. How does that make you feel?
Over the moon.
Aye, buzzing. A big thanks to Sam for getting us that opportunity. So I'm glad.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, Sam is probably one of the most knowledgeable people within the music. From what I have since I've been covering this, I've spoken to Sam numerous times. I've even tried to get her to come and guest host on the show. But I even tried to get her on tonight as well. But unfortunately, she's she's previously occupied with she's on nanny duties tonight. So, but she did say she was going to possibly pop in a chat if she got a chance. But she's got other things occupied. But Sam's fantastic, and she knows her music, especially her new music. And when she mentioned to us that when we were discussing doing the show and being a guest host on a weekly basis, she dropped the bombshell and she told us before obviously the announcement got made that she was going to be your new manager. And I can see why. If she can get you stuff like Tim Burgess to colour and what she's got what you've got lined up for the rest of the year as well. Do you know what I mean? She's obviously keeping you busy and putting you in the way you want to go. Because seriously, if anyone wants to know anything about music and you're on Twitter, check Sam's tweets out. She knows her stuff. She's always at gigs. She's absolutely. You know what? She's a genuinely nice person as well. And do you know what? You've done wonders to get it to be your manager, because I think if she's pulling stuff out of his face, hats off. Seriously, lads, you've done wonders, and you probably couldn't have picked a better person to represent you. And I think that's a credit to you for actually being able to manage to do that. So well done, lads.
I'm very grateful that she's taken us on.
Well, I think she could have knocked you back. Do you know what I mean? But she, as I said, she knows her music, and the fact that she knows a lot of independent bands, and the fact that she's willing to take you on as her the manager for you guys. That must be a good acknowledgement for yourselves as well, because one, you've obviously some bands might not have the audacity to try to turn around and say, "Would you mind doing it?" But at the end of the day, her reputation's on the line as well, because she has to represent you guys, and she wouldn't do that if she didn't think that she could take you to great places and put the music that you've got out there to these places as well, and to put them in, to get Tim Burgess. Seriously, I think that's a serious coup for a new band with your first album, which, as I said, it's been getting fantastic rave reviews. It's hats off to all of you, not just Sam, because obviously if your music wasn't there to be in that, Tim Burgess wouldn't turn around and have you on the listening party. Do you know what I mean? So it seems to be, fingers crossed, it says like a match made in heaven between you guys and Sam. So I seriously wish you all the best going forward, because I think, as I said, it's a match made in heaven. A match made in heaven for the lot of you. And I just wish you all the best going forward. What I'll do now is, before we get into a little bit of football crack to finish the show off, I'm going to play another one of your songs. So this one is "She's Not." Class lad. So just before we move on, so I believe that you want to give a couple of shout outs regards the album and stuff. Is that right, Lee?
Aye, so it was just to thank pretty much everyone who pledged to get the album across the line, pretty much, because everyone's help buying vinyls, buying merchandise. We wouldn't have had it out when we wanted it out. So just a massive thanks to everyone who's on the back of the vinyl, actually. So if people who pledged on the back of the vinyl, and to everyone else who bought records and T-shirts and whatever else, massive thanks.
I think that a lot of people don't realise how important it is, because a lot of bands, especially with the way vinyl is at the minute, there's obviously struggle to get things into production and stuff like that, and all these pledges and supportive pre-orders that bands are going through. It means so much to them that they're able to get their to get their albums on this sort of format. People could happily go along and stream them, but the vinyl is making such a comeback now, and a lot of people want to have like a hands-on copy of the vinyl. And you're right, mate. It's so important to all bands that these pledges and pre-orders, that it helps your music grow, the band grow. It helps you create the awareness to get the gigs going forward and stuff. So hats off, lads. Seriously,
especially being unsigned, as an unsigned band, without the fans, without the people who have bought the album, would be struggling to have had it out. So it's pretty much them who's helped us get it to where it is. So.
And we didn't think that they would sell how they were selling as well. Even after the pledges stopped and the album came out, that first weekend was manic in our practice room / production line.
Production line.
It makes you feel good though, that all that hard work is getting the recognition that you wanted or hoped it would. Because at the end of the day, it's always a risk. You don't know how people are going to take it, and it's nice when you finally get that recognition and all the album sales start coming through, and you think, we've done something right here. That's fantastic, lads. Especially as Lee said, because you've done signed that, it can be a little bit harder to get that out there, but it shows that your fans are your fans. Do you know what I mean? That's what's really important to any band, let alone unsigned music artists as well. So just briefly before we get close the show out with the other side of the AA side. Now, Sam might know her music, fantastic, but one thing she doesn't know, and the lads was back up on this, she doesn't know her football, does she? She knows the colours, but not the team, unfortunately. So she told me you were Celtic fans, and then the only thing that she actually got right on this was the fact that they're playing green and white, but you're actually Hibs fans. Yeah. So European football this year, lads. I know it might be only Europa Conference, whatever, but were you able to get to the game last week? Because it would be your first one behind, like with the attendance again. Was it in Scotland? I know it would have been a reduced attendance, but were you able to get to the gig and be able to get to the game and watch football again?
I got a ticket, so it was. I think it was limited capacity, so 4,000 odd people were in, but it's good being back.
Yeah,
so it's good, isn't it? The fact that you can now go and do the things you love doing. You can start going to watch your football again. You can go start, playing your gigs or going to gigs and watching your favourite bands. And I think that's, that everyone's been holding on to that for so long, and now it's finally here. And I think obviously when full attendances are allowed out, and when you guys can start doing gigs a bit more often or go to festivals again, because the festival scene this year has been shockingly run by the government, I think, and it's affected a lot of people because they couldn't put guidelines in place. And it's the best place and way to hear music is live, and to have so many bands who have been put on festivals that they could have only ever dreamed of playing, to then have it cancelled, and they might not be in a position to do it next year. That festival could have been a once in a lifetime opportunity. So I think we had touched on it before with Sam. She's got you going in the right direction. So I think you're going to have plenty lined up next year. But just before we get that started, obviously we'll talk about football. What's it going to be like to have 4 derbies this year?
Brilliant.
Was that how many? Was that how many that Hearts were going to win, Lee? Was it this year?
Aye. No,
Well, look, seriously, I've really enjoyed the last hour, and as I said before, it was fantastic he decided to come on, and I'll hats off to Sam for getting us to come on. I wish you all the best in the future. As I said, you're going in the right direction. You've got someone who's guiding you all the way the best you can, and you couldn't have got someone better to do that. I'll probably be seeing you in October. As I said, you're one of the gigs I intend to go to at the think tank. So if I do get, I'll give you the message. I'll look you up at the end of the show or something like that. But thanks again for coming on the show. I'll finish out with
a shout out.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Just to James Darkin, who's produced the album, who was on the journey along with the 5 of us. So he's another member of our father.
Yeah.
The father of the album.
Spot on. Well, as I said, lads, thank you very much for coming on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on the show. And this is the second song on the double A side. And this is If You Never Try, You Never Know, which, as I said, is my personal favourite. So thanks, lads.
Cheers for having us.
Said you've